and welcome back to the show where I talk about games that I have recently played to give new players more insight on what the game is really about to maybe make them want to buy it. And I'm calling it Operation Insight. And I'm kind of stuck with it because I've already made a few thumbnails and I can't go back. So today we're going to be talking about episode 2 of World War Z, which takes place in Jerusalem. Now before I start, I should say that in case you didn't know, I already made another video on the first episode, and while these episodes technically don't have anything to do with each other, there may be references to other episodes in this episode. So if you haven't watched it already, I highly suggest you do. Actually, I don't actually highly suggest you do. The audio's a little messed up, but you know, you're just there for the info. So episode 2 takes place in Jerusalem, where you're part of a group that, after hearing about a doctor that has access to a super weapon that can help fight against the infected, you go to save him, as his home is getting attacked by the infected, and that is where chapter 1 starts. Now just like last time, your group consists of 4 main people. This time it's a photojournalist, an architect turned soldier, an ex-British SAS, or a veteran with literally nothing to lose. I personally went with the photojournalist, and I know that last video I said I was going with characters that looked like they were slashers. If you looked at any of the people I just showed you, none of them really look like slashers. The SAS looked more like a heavy gunner than a slasher, and the veteran looked more like a demolitionist. The architect was obviously a hacker or a drone specialist, so the photojournalist was the only person I could actually see running around with the sword, even if it didn't make sense to his character story. You and your group start making your way to the scientist's house, all while trying to draw attention away from him and to you. This consists of setting off alarms. Well, actually, it's only setting off alarm. You set off one alarm and then they all go to you, and then you just go straight to the house. And when you get there, you find him hiding in the I Am Legend box, which I think is pretty cool, given the circumstances. You're also introduced to barricades, which is where you go to a doorway or window and you wood boards that slow the zombies down, just like any Call of Duty Zombies map. And honestly, this is one of the more fun fights for me because you could easily just sit outside and stop them coming in the first place, especially on easy mode. But there's something about boarding up the entrances, setting up turrets around the house, and putting up vantage points that made this fight so much more interesting. Eventually the doctor tells you that before you get him out of there, you actually need to get briefcases with launch codes that are next door both ways, so on the left and the right. And they were pretty easy to find, especially because they were so close to their entrances. And at first it was weird to me that they would make you do something like that just to spread out time spent. That's when I realized that the zombies never stopped attacking the doctor's house, which then made it make more sense to me. But thankfully, like I said, I was doing it on easy mode, so I was able to get back each time before something mission-ending happened. Because I should probably point out that if you fail in any way, like if an objective is failed, the whole mission's failed and you have to start the chapter over, and that's not very fun when you're on your own. Then when you get both the briefcases and you fend off another attack of a swarm, you finally take the doctor out of a secret exit and make your way to the helicopter incoming. Now, this is one of the first time you experience fighting while running, and well, at least in the most technical sense. In the first episode, there was some running around with some people chasing you, but that's not really what's happening here. Here, you have to go from the room to the helipad while there is a constant swarm coming, climbing the walls, climbing the fences, and you have to actively choose whether you're gonna stay where you are and fend off the attack from there, which I don't know if you can, or you go to the helipad and you set up defenses for that. This is something that they don't do very often in the game, but is for some reason one of my favorite things to do because it conveys a sort of urgency in what you're doing, even in easy mode. Anyway, you get to the helipad, defend it for a few minutes, and are picked up by the helicopter that dropped you off in the beginning of the chapter. And it ends with a cutscene of a doctor telling you that in order to use the launch codes, he needs to be at a nearby military base. However, the pilot tells you that if he gets anywhere close to the military base, the automatic anti-air defense will take him out. And that's where the second chapter starts, with you being dropped off near the base to avoid the turrets. Now before I continue, I want to make a side note, because since you probably don't know, while playing this game I would stop every chapter to write notes on the chapter so I didn't have to remember everything or rewatch the recordings, and while writing notes for chapter 2, I wrote that the anti-turrets were a weird thing to leave on at a time like this, and I kinda want to talk about that. I feel like the air is the last thing you need to worry about enemies coming from during this. Now I can understand if they were on while the people were getting attacked and then they couldn't turn them off, but they must have had plenty of time. Like from the looks of the base later on in this chapter, in the next chapter, it looked like they would have plenty of time to prepare for the future, but then again, maybe I'm giving panicking people too much credit. The zombies start coming out of everywhere, and the doctor does a very cool thing which makes me forgive what he does before and after this part, excluding the end, which is that he finds a way to turn on the nearby turbines of where the Zeeks are coming from, and he turns them into the world's largest cherry slushy. It's honestly amazing, and I really like this because it reminds me of the Resident Evil movies that just go over the top in their ways of killing zombies, and it adds a sense of entertaining familiarity to the problematic predicament. But at some point, someone says that they saw a gas station while they were being flown over and might be able to find a car or something. So you just end up fighting more groups, defuse some claymores, and eventually you get to the station where you find a van that the doctor says he can fix with the right parts. So you run and gun, getting the parts, stopping the zombies from killing the doctor, and when you get him all the parts, he fixes the car and you go on your way. Now, if that sounds like a short and unimportant chapter, it's because it is. Now, with hindsight of finishing the episode, I understand that they needed this because there's only 3 chapters in the episode, and having 2 with cutting this part out would be kind of lame. So with that in mind, the chapter basically amounted to more character dialogue, more story building. For example, they explained what the super weapon is supposed to do, which is fire a giant space laser, and that everyone except the SAS guy thinks it's fake. And we also learned that the architect is very serious, like doesn't like jokes at all, and that the doctor is an amazing shot with a pistol. Anyway, on to the 3rd chapter. The 3rd chapter starts with you doing something. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember where the 3rd chapter starts, and apparently I didn't feel like writing the start of it in my notes, eventually getting to the front door of the base. After holding off a swarm or 2, you get inside of the base where the doctor goes to hide in a seemingly random room while you guys hold off the zombies and go find a command room. Along the way of finding the command room, you get lost and the doctor realizes all of a sudden he's in an electrical control room and can actually help you out with everything you need, and eventually leads you to a hole in the floor that is somehow directly above his room, which also leads basically directly to the command room. And you know, at first this kind of stuff was making me upset with the episode because it felt very cliche and very, well, if the plot needs it to happen, then it's gonna happen. But as it went on and stuff happened more often, it started to get really fun in that it feels like something pulled directly out of a 90s zombie sci-fi movie, with stuff falling directly into the characters' hands because the story just needs it to. I mean, for example, they find a doctor that not only has sole access to this super weapon, but can fix literally anything in front of him, and can understand an electrical control panel of a military base just by looking at it. The doctor was literally in a bulletproof, impact-proof room with a regular back door that we took to leave. And the entire episode starts with the British SAS soldier saying that there's a rumor of the super weapon being a space laser. This episode doesn't feel like it's taking itself seriously at all, and I am fully here for it. Anyway, when you get to the command room, the doctor is basically making a code so that he can access the super weapon from anywhere, because originally he can only access it from the command room. So obviously you protect him, pick up a few codes for him, whatever. And when he's done, you go to the roof and wait for the helicopter. Now, it should be said that this helicopter, since dropping you off in chapter 2, has been leading the zombies away from the base from the outside so they stop coming in for the whole time. And every now and again the team would contact the helicopter and he would say that he's happy to hear you're still alive, or vice versa, and that was pretty much the extent of it. And when you get to the roof, you try to contact him again and he doesn't answer. Now, I probably should have mentioned this in the first episode, but when you get a swarm, a giant swarm, like a end of mission swarm, you get a little countdown and you can set defenses for a minute and a half or so, and you can start the battle whenever you're ready, but it gives you some time to set up defenses and get ready. This one was 3 minutes of a wait, and the story expects you to think that During this entire 3 minutes, he was dead. And he was, because he wasn't answering, he wasn't getting back to you. We just thought, oh, he's dead. And then the swarm finally starts coming, and he answers with saying, oh, hey guys, how are you? And he's like nothing ever happened, and he just basically says it'll be a few more minutes, which again is another cliche fake out, but honestly it's something that's very welcomed after everything else that's happened. So you hold off the horde. It's actually a pretty easy horde to hold off, and the helicopter comes and picks you up, and it ends with the doctor on a laptop in the helicopter saying that he's about to fire the weapon, and a giant laser shoots down from space, destroying the base. Which, I'll be honest, after everything that happened, I wasn't very surprised that it was true. I'm more surprised that it was a Dr. Evil type of space laser. It was something straight out of Gears of War. And that's the end of chapter 3. Again, it is a very short episode with a very short story. Even though it's 3 chapters, it definitely feels like it could have been done in maybe 2. So in summary, for this entire episode, I honestly started not liking it because of its predictability and its cliches, and then I started to love how crazy and out of the world this entire scenario is. It really makes me feel like I'm in an old zombie movie before they started getting serious and realistic. And if you're looking for realistic and serious zombie stuff, I wouldn't recommend doing this episode. It's definitely not the most realistic out of all of the episodes. Honestly, I would say the most realistic episodes are 1 and 4. 2 and 3 are not very... 2 and 3 are very sci-fi. But to be fair, 2 and 3 are also probably my favorite ones. That's not true. I'll be honest, episode 4 was pretty fun. Anyway, with the last video and this video, I definitely left out some stuff. As you can tell with the start of chapter 3, I just, for some reason, the beginnings of these chapters are very forgettable compared to the ending of these chapters, and that's, I'd like to say that's pretty acceptable. So if you honestly want to know exactly what happens, I would definitely recommend picking up the game. As with last time, you could obviously find someone who played the game fully, but at the same time, you know, support the creators, support the people who made this game, because hopefully they'll make more games like it, or even better games like it. But to be fair, I was one of the people that got it when it was free, so, you know, don't listen to me. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I made a video on episode 1. The audio is kind of weird, but I couldn't really fix it. But if you're there just for the details, I would definitely recommend watching it. I will have videos on episode 3 and 4 coming out soon during this haunting Halloween. Make sure to check out our videos, new videos every single day during the month of October. Thank you guys so much for watching again, and I hope to see you on the next one.